Good morning, good afternoon, or even good evening as you're listening to me talk about about negative space now today. And I must apologise for Galloway phoning us whilst we was talking about leading lines, but yeah, he was lonely, he needed a chat. And talking about him being lonely and needing a chat, if you've got any technical questions that need answering, how to do things, just drop him an email. Keep him busy. I think he's sitting at home watching his Disney Plus at the moment. So yeah, let's keep him busy. So today I want to talk about negative space and the image for negative space. But before I go on to that, I'm gonna have a little challenge today for myself and see if I can do the portfolio, and I'm confident that I can do the portfolio from within inside my house. So I'm going to see if I can get all the images. The only one I think I might struggle with would be the repeating elements, because that's got to be like your natural, your nature shot, isn't it? But I mean, when I say from within the house, I mean I've always got the garden area and stuff like that I can go out from. But I'm going to see, I'm going to try and put myself into a situation where obviously I'm not allowed out of the house like we are at the moment, or out of our accommodation or anything like that. So I'm going to have a go at that. I'm going to try it with a camera, with a digital SLR, but I'm also going to have a look to see how well I can do it with the smartphone as well. And those results I'm going to put up for you later on in the week to see how well I did, and then maybe you can judge my photography being in this situation. But anyway, let's have a look at what we've got. So I've been on to Unsplash and was just strolling. Strolling? Was I strolling? Yeah, I was just perusing of images that we got. But talking about going on to Unsplash as such, my daughter, who's 21, 22, I can never remember the age of my kids, but my youngest daughter, she's doing her masters in photography at Trent University, and she was telling me that the other day that one of her friends doesn't have internet at home, or in the accommodation that she's staying in doesn't have internet, and that they was having to sit outside McDonald's when it was still going, and piggybacking off of their internet. But now, really, with the government saying that we've got to stay indoors the majority of the time, she can't do that. And it made me wonder how many students from the University of Nottingham may be in the same kind of situation. You just take it for granted, really, don't you? That internet is a basic need, really, now for everyone. We all use it, but we forget sometimes that we might not have it at home, and that a lot of people work off of phones and mobile devices. So if you know any of your friends who are in that situation, get them to get in touch with the university, those student services, and see, is there anything that can be sorted out for that person's situation? Because at the end of the day, it's vital that we all keep in touch with one another, one way or another. But if you know anybody who's struggling, any of your student friends who are struggling in any way whatsoever, get them to get in touch. Don't be afraid of asking students of support or their tutors help. Okay, so that part now covered, let's go on and have a look at some images from Unsplash, which can cover the negative space kind of scenario. But I'm looking at some of these images may represent outside images, but I think all of them can be done inside, and we'll go through them and have a look. So there's this one here, which it looks like it's either a tablecloth or it could be a bed sheet or it's material of some sort. And what I like about this image here is a lot of photographers, when they want to use a piece of material or a background, just create a background, they try to make it neat and as pristine as possible, flatten it out. But I quite like, the folds and the texture within this image, that in itself is giving, its own kind of story. And then you've got this little postage stamp um, down here, just that in itself, just like I said before in the lectures, just intruding into the picture, so the actual postage stamp here is occupying a very small space down in the right hand corner. So then we've got this mass of area here that we can use to lay our text down. Oh no, if we was sorry, I was thinking of leading lines then, being your front cover. I'm getting carried away now. But yeah, we got this negative space, because when we use negative space within publications, within magazines and stuff like that, the MSc students have to do a lot of this because they work on a magazine by themselves in this semester. It's called Techniques in the Field, and they have to produce a magazine by themselves, so they have to do the whole photography, writing, ads and everything else for that publication. But yeah, we use a lot of negative space images so that you can occupy space with text as well. And this is but fundamentally what a negative space image is all about. It's about being able to lay text down onto the page. So going back in the good old days when everything was in print, you wanted illustrations within the magazine, but also paper and printing cost money. So that's why this idea was formulated in the first place, to have this negative space. So this is really what we use negative space images for. But I like the simplicity of the colours as well, with the one tone of green and the white, and it's nicely lit. And this is something that we have to look at as well for when we're doing these kind of images. Get your lighting right, experiment and take some time with the lighting to make sure you're getting the lighting that you want. So in this particular image here, the lighting is coming across from this side, okay, and it's creating shadows and highlights within the image, and that gives us our depth within the image as well. But the lighting coming in from this side, okay, is a soft diffused light. So you could use um, like a table lamp or a desk lamp, and you could throw in light coming from this side here. But what you would need to do with that kind of light, excuse me, I've got a frog in my throat. What you could do with that kind of light coming in from that direction is soften the light. And how would you soften the light? Well, just put some paper maybe in front of the light, or a bit of material over the light, so that it's a nice soft light coming in from that direction. Now, if you're using, say, a desk lamp or something like that, remember the color temperature which is coming off of that light. That will be a yellowish kind of light that you've got coming from this area. So you might have to use your white balances to adjust it so this becomes a nice clean white. Or you can mess with the white balance to see what effect you've got. You can also use window light coming in from one direction as well. And what you could do with, say, if you was using window light coming in from this direction here, what you could actually do is you could put some white paper on this side of the the image, and then that would bounce light back into it, so you wouldn't get a massive dark area in this side and a mass of highlighted light in this side. The light would start to become balanced between the two. So this would be our main light coming in here from this direction, whether it be window light or a light source that you produce in. But we'd have to bounce light back in from this using maybe a white paper or a white bit of cloth or something like that. I was just thinking there whilst I was talking, that's why I paused for a moment, that you can use any kind of light source really if you wanted to, coming from here, even the light source coming off a south of a laptop screen you could use to throw light in here. And you could, if you wanted to, have like a mirror on this side or some tin foil. But just be careful with like tin foil, because that's silver as such. It gives a contrasty light coming back in this way, so you have to think about the light source and how it's going to be affecting. We talk about this being sort of like the daylight, the window daylight coming in from here. You could do this just as well of a night time and actually throw in again light, your desk light or something like that of a night time. So yeah, you all different light sources. Think about the light sources that you've got, and that's what makes the images. I was talking yesterday, not yesterday, when last time I put the thing out, about simplistic shots. These aren't simplistic. They may look simplistic in the fact that there's only two elements, the postage stamp and the background, but there's a lot of thought process gone into creating these images so that it works well. So a simple shot isn't necessarily just a snapshot. You do have to put a lot of thought process into it to actually come up with the ideas and how you're going to light it and how you're going to look at the composition within the structure and how's it going to work. Would this serve better if it was more over here, or would it serve better if it was more over there? The actual composition. My arrows are really rubbish, isn't it? So would it look better if the postage stamp was over here? Is this actually the right area to put the postage stamp into? And so you've got to think about all those kind of things. Would the actual postage stamp, I know I'm going on a lot here, but I'm getting excited now. So would the actual postage stamp fit better within that natural crease that you've got there? So is the angle of the postage stamp, if we rotated it slightly, would it actually work a lot better for us? Or could we use this natural crease here as a leading line towards maybe the postage stamp sitting there? So think about all of these bits. A simple image isn't necessarily a simple image. Anyway, I'm going to go on to the next one now, because I'm really getting excited, and so I need to calm down slightly. So yeah, this one here, it's a story, isn't it? It's a really brilliant story within just a simple. I'm going to have to try and find another word rather than simple all the time. Yeah. So there's our story there. Okay, what a beautiful story we got there. We got a toy car. I don't know where you are at the moment, what your situation is. Are you at home with family? Do you have younger brothers, younger sisters, that you can go and raid their toy cupboard? Or do you still have your own toy cupboard really at the end of the day? Have you got things from when you was a kid still knocking around that you can actually use to create these images? But I just like this story that we've got going on here, this little car with the Christmas tree tied on top. Now, when I was growing up, I can actually remember things like this happening, you know, people bunging Christmas trees on top of their cars and driving back home with them with their tied on. Things were a lot different back in them days. No such thing as health and safety and motorway regulations and stuff like that. I saw this many a time. But I like the colour of the car. It keeps it clean and crisp, and I think it adds to the story. So when we look, we've got here the green of the tree, which complements with the red of the string that's used, and red complicates complements the white of the car. So our color structure within this image is very clean and tidy, but they all start to complement each other. So the green of the tree certainly works with the red of the rope, and the red of the rope works with the white of the car. And it's also as well the background that they've used as well. You know, that there's no nothing that's actually imposing upon the main image. Now, I'm not too sure, okay, but I think here this blur has actually been done post-production. It just seems a little bit, you know, a little bit too soft in terms of the structure of it, because our our depth is here, but also it's here. So you kind of like, you could do this if you again, if you're quite good with say Photoshop or Affinity or whatever editing program that you're using, you could actually create your own kind of blur. And again, if you're not too sure on how to do this, email Steve and ask him, how do I do this in Affinity? How do I create a full step of field within Affinity to actually then make this area here, you know, the attention that we want to get from it. And again, like I was talking in the other image, is the placement of this piece here, this subject here, is it in the right place? Now, I've spoken about negative space and where images are should be, that, you know, the negative space is the more importance, and like a subject maybe should come in, just be slightly intruding into the area. But I think in this particular image it works really well, so that, you know, we still have space, lots of space within the layout of the image, so that the car here, the toy car here, is only occupying a very small space within the structure of the image, but it's enough. It's doing the right kind of job for us. So let's now look at our next one. And this next one here, okay, don't always think that, just one moment, just having a sip of tea. Back with you. Don't always think that you have to have elements straight within the image. Look at that there, that going from corner to corner, that works really, really well. So don't be afraid, you know, if it's done creatively and it's done with a purpose, to actually have your camera at an angle. So, you know, you're shooting on the script, really, you know, it adds a different kind of element to your photography, makes it a little bit more interesting, gives the viewer something else to look at, and the construction of the image works really well. So think about maybe having things on the slant at a different kind of angle from what you would normally do. So try to think, you know, out of the box as such, you know, more creatively make the viewer think about your photography and take on board, you know, the kind of ideas and stuff like that. This is, for me, is a little bit distracting here, but only a little bit. You know, I think I would prefer to have that fall off into darkness maybe a little bit more. And again, so yeah, just maybe you could work on that post production. Just, you know, just maybe bring the shadow down a little bit more, so we're losing this kind of area here, so that we're concentrating more on our main subject here. But that's just nitty gritty, not nitty gritty, being pedantic really, you know, in terms of what I'm saying. This one here, how many I say, how many books do you have lying around at home? You must have hundreds and thousands, and well, maybe not thousands. Well, in my case, I've got thousands. I'm an avid collector of photographic books, and so, you know, I've got books up on my shelf, and my wife's always saying to me, "When are you going to read those books?" I'll get round to reading them one day, yeah. But I'm just an avid collector of photographic books, and yeah, they are, you know, something which is really strong within my life. But I like um, this high key shot. We would call this as a high key shot, where there's a lot of white within the image. You know, and there's just, it's very, very subtle, isn't it? Very subtle. You know, the choice that's been made of the books within the image. They're white, they're light, you know, and they're clean and they're crisp. And I like the fact here that, you know, the photographer has then used two actual, you know, silver elements within the image to then actually sandwich these two lightly coloured objects within the frame. So again, going back to the first image we looked at in terms of the postage stamp and stuff like that, and talking about simplicity of images, keeping images simple. Again, there's a lot of thought process gone into this image to make sure that, you know, things work well. You know, the balancing of the text here. My phone just dinged. Oh, yes, Galloway again. Hey, interrupting. I think he knows every time then when I'm on the old recording device to come in and disturb me. But yeah, so here, you know, we've got really quite a lot of light area going on, and the reflective surface that's been used to actually then start to show the shadow, see, or the reflection. So again, it just helps frame the composition. Now, this is an old trick that we used to use in photography. Is I was talking the other day about images bleeding out into, you know, the area that you're laying them onto. You can just lay, you know, a dark strip around it, and then that contains everything within the image, so nothing is falling out. But yeah, that's a nice one there. This next one that I'm going to be looking at, you know, this is obviously a pool, I would presume, you know, a swimming pool. But you know, now I don't want to presume, but how many people have got access to a swimming pool? I don't know. I haven't. You know, you might. So this kind of image might be capable for you. But I put this one in to get us to think again outside of the box, to think about our photography. So this one is obviously, say, a pool. Okay, clicking my pen off there. This one is obviously a pool. That Galloway's a bit impatient, and that somebody's using. But think about this. This doesn't have to be a swimming pool, does it? It's a collection of water. So could this be a bath, with somebody's legs coming into it? Could this be a paddling pool, a kid's paddling pool, with the legs coming into it? Or, I don't know how big your bowl is for putting into your sink, but could it be, not necessarily human legs as such, but could this be a bowl and doll's legs coming into it, or some teddy legs, your teddy bear or something like that, or two celery sticks or two carrots, or I don't know, what else could we have that could actually then, you could replicate this image in some way, or think about it, all right? But the thing that you've got to think about, again, when you have simple shots, distractions become the extreme within the shot. So if you was using somebody to do this kind of this shot, okay, you need to think about distractions within the image. So don't use somebody's legs, okay? Somebody's legs who's got a tan which goes in this direction, and then they've got no tan on their feet. It will stand out like, a cat's dinner in a dog's bowl, basically. So just think about, what's going on with the hands, the feet, whatever part of the body that you're using. Make sure it's uniformed, it's controlled. And again, look here, so this person here has obviously been wearing some kind of footwear where it's left a mark here. So, a marks here. See, those are the things, those little distractions that start to come into images that you don't want to have happening in your shots. If you're going for a simplistic kind of style to your photography, make sure that the distractions don't become extreme within the image. This one here, again, it doesn't have to be, a wooden surface that you're laying stuff down onto. It could be any kind of surface, a tablecloth, and it doesn't have to be on a table. You could lay these things out on the floor and shoot down onto the image, and think about it that way. But I like the simplistic colors again, which are, somebody's thought about, somebody's actually, thinking about the color palette and how it's working within the image. So we've got the tones of wood here, we've got the tones of wood here, which are complementary to that color, and then the colors within this mat that the food is laid on, similar kind of tones there, isn't there? And the tones which are happening, and they're all complementing each other, darker tones working with darker tones, and such like that. And then that leads us on to the connection with the greens within the image here, and the connection between this color and this color. And then you've got the connection with the lime color within the glass, and then the ice as well, which complements this color. So see how color composition and construction within the image really starts to help, and give a good message going on. The only things differently that I would have done is this one here. Either have it more into the image or out of the image. It just, when it's there just dangling within this area, it's, for me, it's either got to be in or it's got to be out of the image. That's not in or out of the image enough for me, so it doesn't work. And also the light which is coming in from this direction here is hit on those leaves there, and it starts to become a distraction. So here it works nicely, here it works nicely, but see how the light is really bouncing off of that area there, and it's just too bright. So if you have something like that, I would just tone it down a little bit so that it works better. Now this one here, I say like most of the images that I've been looking at are done inside. This one looks like it's taken outside, or is it? You know, again, I'm putting this in to make you think outside of the box and think, how can I do an image inside what maybe looks like it's done outside? So, you know, a tone of blue could be your background, and you could get this tone of blue, a piece of paper, a card, a blue tone, you know, to the card and stuff like that. And again, the light is coming from this way, okay, because it's lighter at the bottom than it is at the top. So, you know, there's a graduation of light actually happening within the image, which, you know, then does replicate a kind of surface. And you could again quite easily replicate this inside. So a white piece of paper down here, a black piece of paper up here. So bright light will come in from this way, dark light will come down from this way, and that would give you the graduating effect that you've got happening here. So what then could this be? Well, this could be anything, couldn't it? Just poking its way into the image. This could be a candle. This could be an ornament. This could be anything really. You could replicate this with anything. So you could easily construct an image quite simply within your house, your home, your bedroom, your front room, your mum's kitchen, wherever you are. So, you know, it's thinking differently than what we might have been thinking about before. We could have quite easily picked our cameras up and gone outside and just wandered around and stuff like that. Think about, you know, images that you've got that you can do within the confines. That sounds a bit wrong, doesn't it? The confines. It sounds like an imprisonment, you know, but it shouldn't be. But think about, you know, what have I got around that I can photograph? What can I make an image out of? I'm sitting at my desk now whilst I'm talking to you, and I'm just looking around my desk, and I've got every day items as for a photographer, you know, not for anybody else. But I've got batteries, I've got chargers, I've got iPads, I've got I forgot what it's called, lens caps. You know, I've got lenses. I've even got my Nintendo Switch Lite on my desk as well. There's lots of things that I could actually photograph if I was thinking about how can I photograph them. Yeah, I've got one of those cutting mats on my desk. You know, those green cutting mats with the white lines and the numbers and stuff like that. That would make a fantastic background for placing things onto. So it's, you know, go round the house and see and look at things. You know, be like you've never looked at them before. Window sills. You know, they make, you know, brilliant backgrounds. You know, the all different things. You know, using white paper onto a window, you know, so that the light is coming through it. You could use that as a background. You know, you could use that to silhouette a shape, you know, to create a negative space. So there's lots of things that you can think about. It's quite amazing that when you become restricted in what you can do, when your choice is narrowed down, it's quite amazing what you can see and what you can find to then actually start to become creative. Sometimes we have too much choice in life, and when it becomes restricted and when we start to get narrowed down on those kind of choices that we can make, it's amazing what images come to light and that we can see. Okay. Now we're going to go on to this one here, and I'll cover the negatives about this particular image, but I will then go on to what I could see from this image here and what direction we could go in. You know, again, this is either some dirt in the background, but it also looks like it's, you know, it might be muck on the sensor, so be careful with that. The lighting that's been used is not really that clean and tidy. There's a lot of darkness within the image. But having said that, let's use the image as, you know, what can we do with the image to use as influence to our photography. And the basic structure and shape of the image, I think, is really, really good. I do like the fact that the head is not within the image, and that gives that kind of image, you know, who is it? Who is this person? There's a mystery to the image, something we want to know about, but we're also getting some kind of story here from the image. The way that the hands are obviously clasping a treasured item to the person, but it's a gentle kind of clasping to the treasured item here. It's not like they're really grasping onto it. And I like this little logo, which is also happening within, you know, the image as well. It's kind of like, you know, what is that fashion? What's that item that the person's wearing? Now, if we look at it, okay, in what we can do, maybe, I don't know, right? I'm just trying to think off the top of my head here. Maybe you've got a brother or a sister who's heavily into Marvel, you know, the Marvel, the films and stuff like that, like Galloway is. I like it a little bit. Galloway is into it in a big way. So could this book be, say, like replaced by a Marvel magazine, a comic? Could it be replaced? Could it be your mum? I say your mum. Again, I'm being a bit sexist. I don't know. Could it be like your mum or your dad holding a magazine which relates to a hobby that they're interested in? If it was me, would you take a picture of me holding a amateur photographer magazine? If it was my wife, you know, her hobby, her big interest is knitting, would she be holding, you know, a knitting magazine? Or could you take it even further along those lines, and could you have someone holding a ball of wool and some knitting needles coming up, or somebody holding a treasure which means something to them? You know, I presume, and I shouldn't do, but, you know, a youngster holding onto, you know, a mobile device, an iPad, an iPhone, a smartphone, or something like that. Or can you go to you know, the unexpected and have an older person, a very, very, very old person with, you know, extremely wrinkled hands as such, holding on to a modern piece of technology, to see how you can, if you went onto Unsplash or sites like this, you could look at images which can be very inspirational to you, that can give you ideas about what you can do with your photography. Don't be afraid to use resources around you that you can look at. Pictures within magazines, pictures within books. You know, try and get, you know, the brain working with this. At the moment, you know, we're being contained inside, so that our bodily muscles are, you know, are not being exercised as much as they should be. But let's not let our brains go to sleep. Think about what images that you can do. So we're going to go on to the next one. This is one that I really like, because again of the the tone background, the even tone on the background. It's nicely lit all over. It's a little bit lighter in this area than it is in this area, but that's not too bad. But again, you know, I like how the colors are working within the image. So we just got this red, blue, yellow, and is it turquoise kind of green kind of thing. But then we got this overall tone, you know, of the toothbrushes. And it's a story, you know, a simple story and stuff like that. But it's the simplicity in the construction what makes the image. Now, you know, can you go to the extremes with this, change this completely in terms of, no, like, could you have I'm laughing here because I think I'm the worst offender when it comes to toothbrushes. I mean, I will hang on to a toothbrush until there may be one strand of a toothbrush left in it, and my wife is always like, "You need to get rid of that toothbrush. I bought you a new toothbrush." It's something about a new toothbrush, you know, that it's like your old pair of slippers. Those old pair of slippers are worn in and they suit your feet just fine. An old toothbrush suits your teeth just fine, doesn't it, really? That's my way of looking. So, you know, what about battered old toothbrushes? You know, do they tell a story in a different way to what the modern ones are? I mean, there could be a story in that, couldn't there? I'm going to go onto this one here. Now, I was looking at this image here, and it reminds me of, you know, images that we used to do in other classes, like in the MSc classes, and sometimes we used to do it in the third year undergraduate model as module, not model, module as well. But you know, taking items and putting them into Tupperware boxes and then putting water into them and banging them in the freezer for a little while to see how, you know, the patterns would be created into the frozen water. So again, that's something that you might think about doing. Any of these ideas that I'm giving you now, and you replicate them in your own photography, I'm quite happy for you to do that. So don't think, oh, he's told me about this, so I can't do it. No, you can do your own versions of them. You know, so like we used to get things like cabbage leaves and put them into water and then freeze them for a little while and see uh, how the different the structure of it changed. So you know, even putting the cabbage leaf in the Tupperware box with the water and putting it in the freezer, say for half an hour, and then you get a thin layer of ice happening and those bubbles of water and stuff like that. So you know, it's different different ways you can do it, you know. And if you light it from underneath, and you could again use any kind of lighting source to do this, you could use a torch. You could put color gels onto torches and shine the light through um, from underneath, and then it gives you a different color tone coming through, complementing. So say if you was using a torchlight and a cabbage leaf and lighting it from underneath, you'd have the green of the cabbage leaf, but then you'd have the yellow of the tungsten coming through. So green and yellow would work complementary with one another. So you know, there's like that. You could look at that. So yeah. Oh, done. This one here, you know, again, I mean, I don't know what people's kitchens are like, or front rooms are like, or dining rooms are like, and stuff like that. But you know, simple, basic needs of today, like fluids and food, you know, are becoming important in our society now, with these simple basic needs that we forget about every single day, but now how they become even more important in our life. You know, we take for granted that every time we was hungry, that if we couldn't be asked to go and make ourselves a cup of coffee, we could go to Starbucks or Costa and simply just get one. The lazy society that we became. Now, you know, you have to put a thought process. No, I'm going off on a tangent here, but yeah, you know, can you do this image at home? Just a simple, you know, piece of drink and food and stuff like that, and an empty chair. I mean, I do think it's telling the story of today, as we are at the moment. You know, sitting in our environments. You know, hopefully we got family around us, but some people might not have that family. So the empty chair. Anyway, I'm gonna move on to this one here. And again, this could be quite easily constructed within doors. You know, you could have a family member who could pose like this for you, and the light source again could be, you know, a bedroom light or a desk lamp. You know, could have reflective light coming in from it, or you could have a that's what I need. Sorry. You could have a quite clean and crisp and clear. You know, is there one of the rooms in the house where maybe you've got like an overall toned wall or something like that, a white wall, or maybe a coloured wall or something like that, a brightly coloured wall, something like that, you know? Or could you step out into the garden? You know, we've had some really nice blue skies over this last week. You could be doing a kind of image like that, bright blue sky, you know, in this area here, which, you know, this becomes our subject matter. So hopefully this has given you some kind of idea as to what images you could do inside or in your garden, you know, whilst we've got this bit of a lockdown going on, this shutdown kind of process we're in. So yeah, these could be the images that you're doing. Like I said at the beginning of the recording, if you've got any technical questions, please email them to Steve. Keep him busy. I like to see him busy. You know, if you want feedback on images, I'm happy to do that via, you know, the Instagram, and like I said before, with the email. But keep email um one or two images as such like that, because it is a very more difficult to actually do feedback feedback. I don't know what feedback is. Feedback via email. I think I combined feed and email there and came up with feedback. Hey, so that's too much time sitting at my desk. Anyway, but I don't know about you. I am actually enjoying doing the talks this way. I'd much prefer to be standing in front of you doing the talks, but you know, hopefully we will be back together soon, and they will continue. But just because we can't see each other doesn't mean that we're apart. So just remember that, you know, even if you just want to send me an email saying, "Hey up, David, how you doing? How's life treating you?" I'll be happy to have those kind of emails so that I can email you back and say, "I'm just doing really fine at the moment." So, you know, or I don't know, just send me a message maybe through Instagram. You know, it doesn't have to be always about feedback. It's just about, you know, keeping in touch with one another, you know, to make sure that this distance that we have doesn't become a problem, because, you know, it could do, you know, when we're socially isolated from one another, you know, habits and behavior start to become differently from what they were in the past. And when we get back together again, we, you know, those habits that we've now started to get into our lives could become a major problem in the future. So let's keep talking one way or another. Okay, I'm going to leave it there now because I think I've droned on far too much. But yeah, have a think about your photography. If you've got any ideas that you're not sure about, just drop me an email. I'm happy to sort out them with you. So until next time, which hopefully won't be too long, take care of yourselves. See you soon. Bye.